G'day YouTubers, well it's Rob here again. In my last video I showed you that I'm currently getting my 85 F1 Ducati roadworthy and for standing for a couple of years. And I had a bit of an interest from a viewer regarding showing any work I do on the bike, and it got me thinking. I've had Ducatis continuously for over 35 years. Always done all my own mechanical wrenching on them. And along the way you learn a few tricks that you pick up here and there. One of the jobs in particular is adjusting the cables for the carbies. These early Ducatis have got pumper Dellortos, front and back cylinders, and you have to synchronize the carbie slides correctly to get a smooth engine. I mean, that's one of the causes of engine vibration if you haven't got the carbs correctly synchronized. And you can do it with vacuum gauges. I've got a set of mercury vacuum gauges that I use on multis, but I don't use that on the V-twin. It's not necessary, and I find on the V-twin the vacuum gauges don't give a good reading quite often. There's a simple way to set the cables that was passed on to me by a long-time Ducati mechanic, professional Ducati mechanic, and it's a very simple thing to do, and I'll show you what's involved on a drawing just to show you how this setup works. Right, well here we have a schematic of a couple of Dellortos, very basic schematic, front cylinder, rear cylinder. Matchbox is your slide, squiggly line is the return spring, round hole is the air intake, the orifice with the slide controls. This here is your engine idle speed adjuster with a taper on the end, which as the screw goes in, the taper pushes the slide up or down depending on which way you're turning it. So to set the cables evenly and basically have them so that they have the same clearance overall, and bearing in mind the cable outer is actually free to float on these because there could be slop at either end of the cable in effect. So what you want to do is you want to get the total amount of slop at both ends of the cable the same for both, and that way doesn't matter how long the cable is, because that's irrespective. The cables should, even though one's going to be longer than the other, they'll have similar stiction if they're properly oiled. All of the slide travel is governed by the return spring as far as the slides going up and down. And so you want to have both those cables with exactly the same amount of clearance overall on each cable, so that both slides will then go up and down completely in unison from the idle position. So you set your idle speed, get that correct, so both cylinders are idling at the same speed. Same amount of fuel airflow basically. And you now want to do your cables. I would point out that before you set your idle speed, make sure you've got slop in both cables so that you're not setting it incorrectly. Okay, shut the motor off, turn off the fuel. Drain your float bowls, get rid of any fuel in there, just undo the nut at the bottom a few turns, let it drain out, screw it back up. So now you've got your carbs ready to adjust the cables. Okay, so this is front cylinder, this is rear. You can do it any way you like. I'll just do it as front to rear. I normally set the front as the reference point and then do the rear as the one that I bring up to the reference point. So you screw in your, you've got your cables adjusted, screwed in a little bit, enough that there's slop in both cables. Screw out the with the engine off, of course, screw out the front adjuster until you've, and wiggle the cable up, backs and forwards, up and down, until you've got about 2 mil of travel at the most. And 1 to 2 mil, 2 mil is about right. And that allows for expansion or whatever. And lock up the lock nut on the adjuster. That's your reference point, leave it. Okay, on the rear cylinder, let's screw it in, you know, quite a bit so you've got a lot of slop there. And then what you'll do is turn your twist grip, pull your twist grip around to about, with the motor, oh, this is all done with the motor off, of course. Turn your twist grip around to about half, 3/4 position, and then just let it go. Now both slides are going to be up, and the one that's got slop on it won't go up as quickly, up as soon. So this one will go up first because it's got no slop, and this one will be like that. So what happens is, obviously the motor's out of sync. Now when you release the twist grip, what will happen is the springs, which are fairly, you know, uniform, I mean obviously the difference won't be this great, will push both the slides back until they hit the stop. And what you're going to get is click, click. There'll be 2 distinct clicks. So basically you're going to do this tuning by, the synchronization by ear. So, okay, you want to get rid of the 2 clicks. You want it so that when those cables are adjusted correctly, both slides come down and hit the stops at exactly the same point. There'll be 1 click, 1 distinct click. You won't get any double clicks or echo or whatever. So basically, I said, start off with a fair bit of slop and then screw out the adjuster. Repeat this until basically you'll hear the time difference between the clicks, and it's not a big time difference, but it's discernible. You'll hear that time difference diminish as the slides, as this one basically is coming up more, as it'll get to a point where the slides are both evenly spaced. The amount of free play in both cable ends is exactly the same, and when those slides come down and they hit that stop after you release it, there'll be 1 click only. You can lock it up. Lock up this one here, put your boots back on, turn on your fuel, start your motor, and both those slides will be synchronized. So that's how you do it. You do it by ear, and I've always done it that way ever since Ross showed me, Ducati mechanic. Works fine. So you don't need any fancy vacuum systems or anything. It's certainly plenty good enough to set them up accurately, and that's it. That's the trick. So I hope you found it interesting, and yeah, catch you next time. See ya.